Okay, the time is now 5:03. Good evening and welcome to the September 18th, 2024 Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting. I am Shayla Adams Stafford, Chair of the Committee and District 4 Board Member. It brings me great pleasure to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. I look forward to our work tonight. Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Good evening, everyone. Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Here.
Dr. Kenneth Harris.
Yeah, you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Jamal Jonko. Ms. Pamela Buzastrugger.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. With a quorum present, the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee will now come to order. So if there are no objections, the committee shall adopt the September 18th, 2024 meeting agenda. The question is, shall the committee adopt the September 18th, 2024 meeting agenda? Any discussion? Okay, Mrs. Barton, will you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
Dr. Kenneth Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Buzastrugger.
Aye.
We have 3 in the affirmative and 0 in the negative.
Thank you. The September 18th, 2024 Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting agenda is adopted. So if there are no objections, the committee shall approve the August 27th, 2024 meeting minutes. The question is to approve the August 27th, 2024 meeting minutes as distributed. Are there any discussion? Okay, Ms. Barton, will you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Dr. Harris.
Aye.
Ms. Buzastrugger.
Aye.
We have 3 in the affirmative and 0 in the negative.
Okay, awesome. The August 27th, 2024 OBAFA committee meeting minutes have been approved. All right, we now will have a public comment. There is one registered live public comment speaker. This is Sarah Tuberville from Capitol Heights Elementary School PTSA. It's a parent petition, immediate needs at Capitol Heights Elementary School. Is Ms. Tuberville here?
Yes, I
Yes.
just
Okay.
asked her to come over.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Shall I get started?
Thank you for being here. Yes, we'll go ahead and get started now.
Okay, thank you so much for your time and attention. And again, my name is Sarah Tuberville. I'm the advocacy chair for the Capitol Heights Parent Teacher Student Association. We are excited to share with you a petition that I submitted of over 120 parent and guardian names, asking you to prioritize upgrade and a number of renovations or improvements to the school to protect the health, safety, and comfort of the children and staff there. In addition to asking that chess be included in the capital improvement program this year, we wanted to call your immediate attention to a number of concerns that we feel need to be addressed right away. And these issues are not only about health, safety, and comfort, but are necessary to prevent larger costs down the road. So a little investment now into our building and school that is over 60 years old can save money down the line. The most important is an audit of the HVAC system and repairs to ensure that it will reliably heat and cool the building. The classrooms are simply too hot on many days, which impedes instruction, attention, and attendance. Secondly, we need at least one additional temporary classroom to address space and overcapacity. We've got a faculty workroom and library serving as classrooms. We've had to refuse community members of opening up a second tag classroom in 4th grade because we simply didn't have any space. The school is busting at the seams. We need improvement and replacement of antiquated and non-working lighting in hallways and bathrooms. We have some bathrooms where the children are actually afraid to go into them because the lighting is so poor, they are so dark. In addition, we need prompt repair and replacement of broken toilets and faucets in both the children and adult bathrooms, and replacement of broken and cracked windows in classrooms, some of which are single pane, which is obviously a significant safety concern. Finally, or excuse me, we also need replacement of non-working blinds, which are a safety issue, and also block natural light, which impedes the ability for children to learn. They always do better when they've got natural light instead of in a dark space. We need provision of water bottle filling stations. We have one for the entire school that is located in the cafeteria. And finally, we need you to address rodents in the building. While the children think the mice are cute, the parents and teachers certainly do not. So we would ask that you provide some funding to be able to address these immediate issues so that so our children and teachers can have a safe and pleasant learning environment for the rest of the year. Thank you so much for your attention, and we stand by to help in any way that we can.
Thank you very much, and I will be following up with you on those requests. All right, we're going to now move to item 3.0, and I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Coleman for the Student Information System Parent View update. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Board Chair Adam Stafford, and congratulations on the birth of your child. I'm actually going to defer to Chief Zuckerman, as I believe he's providing this portion of the update.
Thanks, Dr. Coleman. And I echo my congratulations, Ms. Adam Stafford. If it's okay, I just would like to share my screen briefly, just to give a brief update, and then we can take some questions. I promise to be brief. Let me see. Okay. Everyone should be able to see, right? Okay. So I wanted to give an update about where we are with Parent View in Synergy, our new student information system. So as of this week, we have, it's probably higher now because I pulled these numbers 2 days ago to prepare for this presentation, but a little over 55,000 Parent View accounts activated. I'm pleased with that, just where we are at this point in the school year, considering that we ended last year with about 58,000 SchoolMax accounts. So we're close to where we were, and we have a lot of work to do, and I'll talk about what we're going to do in just a moment to increase that number. There are 3 ways for parents to enroll in Parent View. One, if you had an existing SchoolMax family portal account, you would have received a direct email with an activation link to sign up in Synergy. And that's the easiest way, because the information is completely validated because we had a valid email that we were able to push an activation link to. The next way that people can sign up, if I can, let me just advance my screen here, which doesn't want to advance. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. The second way is if you don't have an activation link, parents who are currently registered can visit the Parent View activation page to request account activation. But I have to put a big caveat here, and I think this is what's the work that we have to do going forward. The information that we have a validation process, because you can't, not just anyone can sign up for an account due to student privacy, data privacy, FERPA, and so forth. And so the information that you type in to activate your Parent View account has to match what was previously in SchoolMax. And a lot of times it's not going to match. If you're off by a digit in your student ID number, if you are, if you plug in a phone number that wasn't your phone number from before, or an email address that's changed. So there's 4 or 5, and I should have put them here, validation questions: email address, phone number, student name, parent name, and they all just need to match. And a lot of the challenges with moving to a new system like this is that matching and that validation process. So the third way that you can sign up is visit your child's school with your proper identification. And so for the vast majority of our parents over the course of this year, that's unfortunately the process that we're going to have to use because of the data quality and the data validation process. And it's going to be a big lift this year. I'm confident that we're going to make a lot of headway. And I'll talk in a minute about that. But that's where, since we only had 58,000 people enrolled in the family portal last year, we're likely going to have to spend the vast majority of our energy in this third bullet. So let's talk about our next steps. So one of the questions some board members had asked was, how do parents get support? The primary support for parent view activation is going to be at the school level. And the reason for that is because of that third bullet. Currently, we're not staffed to enable parent view accounts remotely, but even if we were to invest in that from an ROI or return on investment standpoint, I don't think that'd be a great investment because of the validation process that schools have that we at central office don't necessarily have. Identification, lookup of guardianship and so forth, everything that the parents would ordinarily do at the school. The schools are best positioned to validate that person, that adult should have an active account. And so we knew that going into this process. We also knew that as a school district, there was only so much that we could metabolize in taking on a new student information system at this scale. And so our plan had been to move as many people as we could over the summer through the electronic mechanism into parent view. And then this fall, once I'd say mid-October, we just need to get things settled a little bit more just through our processes. We want to launch a system-wide parent view sign-up campaign across all schools. And that we would work in concert with our chief of schools, our area offices, our comms team, obviously. We have our parent engagement assistants, our community schools coordinator. We want to have a campaign that we launch later this fall to begin the process of enrolling people in school. There's lots of ways we can do that. There's lots of opportunities when parents come to school for student activities to do that. We can incentivize that process. And so that's going to be our approach once we just get a few more weeks into the school year and things settle. So with that, I'll stop and open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll defer to my colleagues if you all have any questions before I begin with the questions that I have. Thank you. Okay, all right. Go ahead. Our newest member to our committee is Board Member Pamela Boozer-Struthers. So go ahead, you can begin at this time, thanks.
Thank you, Chair Adam Stafford. My question is about having the second parent or guardian having a separate parent view account and how that will roll out if right now we're still in the phase of the one account rolling over from School Max, because I think we are informed that we could be solving the issue when a child does have two parents, guardians who may interact separately with the school. Thank you.
Yeah, that we can do that, and that functionality exists, and we'll be able to push that as a part of our communication.
Great, thank you.
Okay. My question, just so that I'm understanding, so you said we're at 55K, 55,000 enrollments this year, and we were at 58,000 last year with School Max at the end of the year, School Max.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. What was our just like average annual enrollment? Was it around 58,000?
Yeah, 58.
So
that actually, that's the high water mark was 50.
Okay. So what is our goal for this year? Like in terms of how many registrations will we say like that we feel comfortable that this was a new rollout, a new system. This is our goal in terms of registrations.
Yeah, so in terms of parent view activation, We had wanted to increase by 10%, but quite frankly, I think that that's low. I think we can do much, much more because Ms. Adams Stafford, just to be candid, we've never launched a system-wide campaign to enroll people in the student information system. We didn't do that in School Max. And when we started to have the conversation about doing that a couple of years ago, we knew we were going to be moving to a new SIS, and that we probably would be better served putting our energies into the new SIS campaign. So I think when we actually organize to do this and go school by school and use all of the tools in our toolkit, I think we're going to see a much higher enrollment. I really do.
Yeah, I'd love to hear, a number. Like if, if we, I say, let's shoot high. I say, let's say 100,000. I think we can do it. Well, I might be
Stake in the
shooting.
ground. I got it. Stake in the ground.
I think we can do it. And I think that, board members can be, liaisons to our communities to support and help people to get connected and helping them answer some of those just frequently asked questions. But we also, as you mentioned, we have such a great, powerful tool with our community schools. And we're still having our parent support centers, right? Am I mistaken? We still have those? Are we still leveraging those this year? I believe through community school.
Think I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you, where we are with
Okay.
the parent resource centers.
Well, I'd say, if we can use those mechanisms, I certainly think that we could get a much higher number because as parents get connected, the response is positive. They're able to see everything in one place. And as a parent who's using it, I think that as the word spreads. And so I'd love to hear, what are some of the strategies that you guys plan to use, to do that. And you mentioned a few of them here, but I think it would be really beneficial to see like what are some innovative ways that we can get as many people connected as we can, because the reality is the more people that are connected and can see their students' grades and can be connected to, everything that's happening at their school, the more involved those parents. Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
There any other questions or comments from colleagues? And I do see we have Dr. Zipporah Miller who's joined us, and I think I saw Chair Walker here as well. I don't know if she's in the waiting room, but we can certainly pull her over. Oh, I see Chair Lolita Walker, she's in the attendees area, so if we can pull her over. Director Fitzpatrick, great. And then she has a question as well. Okay, go ahead. You can have the floor. Thanks.
Are you talking to me? Oh, thank you. Hey, and congratulations to you as well. What a great presentation. I love that you asked about a number. And I was thinking, this is only me, I was really thinking about their 10% stretch goal, because we know with the advocacy and the education, to your point, Chair Adam Stafford, we're going to continue to soar. But at this point, what I hear is that we're over surpassed where we were halfway of last year in School Max total. We're almost to the end of where we were, which was the height. And now we can only soar from here. So I love pushing that 10%, which felt aggressive at the time. And then I feel like watch us soar, because we're really going to help with this campaign. And thank you all for recognizing that a targeted campaign, leveraging PCAC, leveraging us, leveraging all of the things in the community is going to be amazing. And Chair Adam Stafford, I don't know if you recognize, but last week when we talked about the social emotional learning, and they really talked about this push to make sure everybody signed up, because disciplinary actions will also be in the system. So it's really educating that everything is going to be inside of this one system. So thanks so much. I'm excited as well.
And I even wonder what ways can we leverage our students, maybe as student ambassadors, to support their parents. I'm just thinking about, children who like have grandparents that are their primary caregivers. And, I'm just in my community, I'm hearing a lot of parents just saying, grandparents that are just not connected in that way. And how could we leverage, students and some of our students in our IT programs to, maybe support, communities that are often can be disconnected So that's just something to consider as well. Okay.
Got it.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on here. Right at this time, I'm going to recognize Dr. Coleman for the report of the transportation update. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Board Committee Chair Adam Stafford. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Director Baldwin to provide an update regarding transportation.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. Want to make sure that I am sharing my screen. So hopefully you
Yes,
all
sir, you
see
are.
that. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you to our board members for the opportunity to share an update on transportation as we start school year. As we continue to share with families the recommendations we are implementing, it still represents phase one of a multi-phase, multi-year improvement process, where we plan to continue to enhance transportation service through implementing these prioritized recommendations, engage the community with deliberate ways to ensure a collaborative approach, and evaluate our progress using defined data metrics. As of now, we have 847 drivers covering 1,035 routes. This is a reduction to the 1,065 routes mentioned in the August board meeting. This still leaves us with a shortage of drivers a little under 200. To manage this shortfall, we are doubling up trips on the first and second tiers. This approach, while necessary, has resulted in delays in school arrival times, but as our current driver pool is stretched to cover all of the vacant runs. To address the delays, we've stationed personnel at each bus lot to facilitate communications through our platforms, including School Messenger and the Stop Finder app. Notifications regarding bus changes and delayed arrivals are being sent via email, text, and phone calls. Additionally, we're updating the Stop Finder app daily with the latest bus information. As we have started to track this data more, currently we're looking at a 90% fill rate for bus substitutions. And that's very important because last year, this time, when we got the results of the formative audit, it mentioned that we had 1,000 unassigned trips, over 1,000 unassigned trips in the system. And so that meant that there were no notifications from the Stop Finder app. Folks could not track it well. Now we're at a 90% fill rate where there's a bus assignment with every trip. So when parents are looking in the app, they're seeing a bus number and they're also seeing the route number, which enables them to track the bus more effectively. So this fill rate combined with the parents creating geo-alerts allow for the real-time push notifications when the child's bus enters their geo-alert zone. So far, we've sent over 101 Stop Finder invitations to parents to subscribe to the Stop Finder app. This 101,000 isn't important because it's an add-on. So last year, these are duplicate invitations. So with the number of School Max accounts from last year eligible, we sent invitations. And additionally, now with the parent view accounts, we have sent invitations. So it's kind of doubled. Last year, we were around that 60,000 mark for invitations being sent. But what's more important, of the 101,000 invitations that we've sent, only 24,000 have actually downloaded the app, though they may not have created the geo-alerts. And this is the work that we want to do more of in getting more of our subscribers, is to create the geo-alerts. As you can see here, only 6,000 of the 24,000 have actually created a geo-alert. And that is what enables the push notifications to parents to let them know. And so just if I can piggyback with Dr. Zuckerman, this is an important number. The number of parent view accounts are very important to us because based on the information from those accounts, that's where we get the email where we send the invites to. So without a valid parent view account, we're unable to actually send a Stop Finder invitation to. So we want to help increase that number of parent view accounts, so that helps increase the number of invitations that we are able to send to access the Stop Finder app. In addition to sending out our notifications, parents are actively engaging with us through other platforms. Our transportation resolution system has been a key tool for logging and addressing concerns. We're averaging about 150 requests coming in per day. But since August 12th, we've been able to resolve 1,280 of those concerns via our system. Our team is working and has worked very hard to try to respond to as many of these concerns as possible daily. The telephone bank system has also seen very heavy use, with call volumes peaking up to 9,400 calls in a single day. Please understand that that volume of calls that come in a day, we don't have the bandwidth to be able to handle all of those calls at once. And so our team has done the best to try to manage to handle as many of those calls as possible. And those that we do handle, we do try to resolve on that first time call. So we're continuing to analyze and improve our operations, and we'll provide a more detailed report, including insights from our work with Formative at the board meeting on September 26th. At this point, I will pause and open for any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm having some challenges with my sound here, so I have to access it from two areas. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
You can? Okay. Were there, my colleagues, did you all have any questions or comments on the transportation update? Okay, we'll start with Vice Chair Dr. Harris, then we'll go to Board Member Boozer-Strother, and then if there are others that have questions, you can feel free to raise your hands as well. Thank you so much. We can go ahead and get started now.
All right, thank you,
Dr.
Chair Adams,
Harris.
staff. Go ahead, me.
Mr. Baldwin, can you stop sharing so I can see the board member?
I'm sorry, did you say stop sharing?
Yes, that's what she said.
Okay.
Thanks. Hey, thanks, Chair Adams, staffer, and my congratulations as well. Colleagues, or Mr. Baldwin, thank you for your presentation. Real quick point of clarification for me. Did you say when it comes to the notifications that the school system sends out, is it accurate to say that if the participant isn't signed up for the geolocation, they don't get any of the notifications, including if a bus is running late?
So that is within the Stop Finder app. If you do not receive have not set up the geo alerts, you may not get the push notifications, but you should be getting the school messenger notifications if that bus is running late in that manner.
Okay, good. That was my understanding of it. I just want to make sure I was not misunderstanding. So for constituents, parents, even students that aren't getting those messages when they should be getting those messages, is there something we can do to better troubleshoot that? Because I say from the perspective of, I know when we're in these meetings or full board meetings, we're having conversations, say, hey, we're sending out messages, we're communicating, but on the opposite side, what I'm hearing within the community is that those messages, they're not being received or they're not being sent, one of the two. So how can we work to rectify that situation?
I'm glad you said that, sir. So one of the things that we learned is still in place, that you have to sign up to be a part of the school messenger system. We do have a website as part of the district website that talks about signing up for school messenger, and parents have to elect to sign up for that. And so for us, we're thinking our schools naturally use school messenger to send out messages from there. And so it would hopefully already be mentioned to parents that to receive notifications or any information from schools that use school messenger, that they have to sign up. So if parents are not getting that message, that would be the first place I would look. And then check in with us, because we are on our team members about communication. So we've pretty much said that whenever there's a bus change, send a message. And so with the shortfall that we have, we're sending a lot. I know just in a matter of a couple hours today, one person sent 40 messages, school messengers out. So I know they've been sent. As soon as we know information, we send it out.
Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Boozer Strategy, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you, Chair. I wanted to, well, first I want to thank the bus drivers. I'm personally witnessing the double routes and the making it right on time for that second tier. So I want to say shout out to the bus drivers for making that work. I know it's really difficult, and I do see the data shows us the progress. And also as a board member in this for 6 years, minus the years we did not run buses because of COVID, I certainly am seeing the differences. So I want to thank everyone for the implementation. On that way to progress, I did want to note with the app that, I mean, I think you just really hit on it, that as soon as a parent, these back to school nights have been very helpful around learning who in the room still isn't using the resources available and understanding all that data available to them. And, when you have, the dedicated staff person who, approaches the parent who needs stop finder help, that it has to be and school messenger and parent view, like all three have to be working together for a more engaged and informed parent, because of the higher stakes that we've put on being late for school, even if it's because of the bus. Those late arrival records are adding up to an interpretation about our students and their commitment to being in that first period and a parent's engagement, and they're not quite accurate. We're having some tough conversations around what the data says and accuracy on that. But what I would say about some of these routes is the stakes seem to be higher for high school students around that, so that these routes need to be prioritized for high school to arrive on time, because a high school student not arriving on time leads to discipline, even though Superintendent House is saying not because of late buses. That just is difficult in these really large high schools. So I just wanted to call out that communication, how important it still is. Thank you.
If I can respond real quick, board member, what we've done, what we're taking the initiative for our team is to visit all of our PTOs. And so we have created a calendar, and we are asking our principals for invitations to school PTOs so that we can go out and actually talk more about the transportation, talk more about what we need from parents to make this more effective in terms of creating a parent view account, getting the Stop Finder invitation, downloading the Stop Finder app, and creating their geo alerts. And we just might have to add now check School Messenger to make sure that you're able to receive notifications from that side too. So we understand it, and we want to make sure that we do our part to push more information out to our families so that they're in the know.
And if I could add to that, Chief Zuckerman talked about the organized campaign to really get families engaged around Parent View. And to your point, Board Member Boozer Strother, we want that to also extend, or we will have that also extend to Stop Finder, School Messenger, how to set up geo alerts, because we know we're going to need our school partners with working with each community to reach those families who we haven't otherwise been able to reach with a centralized message.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Chair Walker, you can go ahead at this time. Chair Walker, you can go ahead at this time.
Yes, can you hear me? I was hearing an echo. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I just was gonna add a couple things for consideration, not for now, but maybe when you present on the 26th. We've heard a couple of things that I was hoping you could just add into the presentation or touch on. The first is if you could give an update to where it says the bus is unable to be located. Those are still happening on the Stop Finder app. So what work we've done around the unlocated buses, you know what I'm referring to, right? Okay, cool. Thank
Yes.
you. The second piece that I was going to say is I just am so excited about this campaign that we're talking about. I can't wait to see it in motion for a number of different ways. I think that the board members have some really innovative ways of things that we can do and record and put out to our audience as well. One of the things in Stop Finder is that little stop sign that's at the bottom that has messages on it. So good. I see you saying, yep. So we're going to educate around that there. I think we need a select all, but that's just me. I know it's on the list all the way down, but we're going to get a select all so we can delete, but thank you so much. And I just wanted us to be able to go back to some of the concerns that we had heard previously about buses not showing up and how we're getting those communications out, because it would be good to say, hey, these were the top 3 issues that we heard. And this is how somebody is offered. Perfect. Yeah, so let's just go back and look at the reasons that people said that they were struggling. And if we can just say like, hey, these were the top 3, but now we've closed these gaps and the next ones are bubbling up that we're working on, I think will be super helpful. Thank you so much. That's all I had.
Thank you for that feedback.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, my first question is around the parts of the plan that have to do with hiring. And I'm wondering if we can talk about where on the implementation plan the work that's happening now overlaps with the hiring components that we are overhauling. Or are these happening in a staggered way?
So I can speak briefly to that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have our HR partners on the line with us
Mm-hmm.
tonight, but what's happening is a continuance of job fairs and recruitment events. Matter of fact, we have one going on right now here at Skyline.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are bi-weekly. We are continuing to use kind of a grassroots effort of folks that have driven for us. If they've retired and want to come back and work, we're doing that as well. And working with our partners right now, as far as a more detailed plan, I would have to kind of refer back to our HR team members from that standpoint.
I think that would be really helpful for us to discuss, because the core issue that I'm hearing at the end of the day is that we're still down 200 drivers. Essentially, that's kind of where we were, and that's where we were in years before. That seems to be the number where we were previously. And so I guess I'm just wondering sort of what elements of the plan we're implementing right now to try to navigate that. And I know I had asked earlier about the recent legislation that was passed to support multilingual learners in taking the driving assessment, and kind of where we were in that, and perhaps you can provide an update on that as well. So I think one of the things, so in terms of the calls that you're getting, I mean, have you all had an opportunity to sort of categorize the calls that you're getting? Like, what are some of the top concerns out of like all of the calls that you're receiving, or top 2?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Right now, number 1 is everybody wants a bus stop change. From that standpoint, and then the others are related to the Stop Finder app if they would like an email invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Standpoint, and then there are safety concerns. So there may be concerns about the walk to the bus stop or the bus stop within
Mhm.
itself. And so between the safety concerns about the bus stop and then the bus stop change request, and the stop finder, those are our top three. And what I can say that right now, we don't really change bus stops for at least the first 10 days of school. We have a plan that we need to implement, and that takes a little time to do because not everybody rides the bus the first week of school, the second week. And so usually it's actually this week when we start to really find out who's actually riding the bus. And so our times where buses were late on the first day, first several days, now they're starting to get to school a little sooner because that ridership push is getting a little bit more stable. And so that's the information, that's usually the message that we try to share with parents that want that bus stop immediately. And just give it time, and it will calm itself out to where that bus is getting there on time. And it also gives us an opportunity where if the bus is overcrowded or if it's still late, severely late, we gives my team enough time to evaluate and find a solution.
I had a few more questions, but thank you. That's helpful. And are you able to sort of analyze that information by district and help us to understand? So, for example, like if most of the bus stop changes are happening like in District 4 and they're happening in areas that are like walkable areas, I just want to, if we could get more analysis or information on that, that would be really helpful. Okay, so we'll go now to board member Boozer Struthers, and then we'll go back to Chair Lolita Walker.
Thank you. My question is about vehicle diversification. Annapolis had passed the bill a few years ago to allow for the vans that would, have the lower ridership. So we're not running these big buses when we don't have them full. I know that that legislation was not helpful enough. I mean, the reality is we would need to go back and explain how we need it to be helpful. So we could hire drivers who do not need CDLs and then the right size transportation. Now, when I would watch drop-offs at various types of schools in my district, I saw plenty of buses before this year with 4, 5, 6, 10 children exiting. And so I don't know if this consolidation is already showing buses not having those single digit ridership. And if there are still buses that are arriving with that low ridership, should we push in Annapolis for this diversification of transportation? Because we know we're always going to need these routes, but we know they're always going to have 12, 10, 12, whatever a van is. And then we could hire more drivers more quickly because they don't need the CDL. So I just want to know if that's viable. Should we prioritize it as a board in our advocacy for enabling legislation out of Annapolis?
So great comment, Board Member Boozer Struthers. That legislation has been passed. It's already in Comar that allows us to use alternate van. We have currently 16 vans in our fleet, and we have roughly 18 non-CDL drivers. These drivers have been trained to drive the van, and they also double as a bus attendant, which is another area of high need for us. And so one thing that we have to remember with those drivers not having a CDL, the bus can't be yellow, and we cannot have any stop-on equipment attached to that bus. So that means with those vans, they would have to pull in, say, into parking lots, home driveways. We would not be able to stop on any corners. So that is a conversation that we are having, and how best that looks. Those routes that you have 4 to 10 kids on primarily will be from specialty programs. And so they're coming out of boundary. And so their ride time may be significantly longer than those kids that are in the comprehensive zone to work. And so that is a conversation that we're having. I do see that in some instances. We use the vans now for McKinney-Vento, and primarily if they're out of county, because that saves a bus to go get one child. So that is a conversation that we are currently having.
All right.
And
Thank
and
you.
if you,
I know there's room to improve all of it. Thanks.
yeah, and I was just going to add to that point, Board Member Boozer Struthers, certainly that's one of the key performance indicators that we are tracking is bus utilization, so that when we can maximize the number of students on the buses safely, that we're doing so. In addition to that, certainly having both so having our traditional CDL drivers and a complement of non-CDL drivers helps with our recruitment efforts. And then Director Baldwin said that last piece, that we're always going to have some unique routes that may look like the bus is not being totally utilized, but they have a specific, more distinct path that they have to follow that doesn't necessarily allow it to capture a larger ridership.
Okay, we'll go now to Chair Walker.
One for 3 schools. Tier 3 schools is at the end of our spectrum. You know, once we do double rounds and all of the things, scholarly are getting a little. I have a tier 3 son myself, and I was just wondering, when you do the report out on the 26th, if you can just talk about, at some point we should really look at the routes that had the most delays, so we could determine whether or not from academic at the school level, if they're being lost, that we can help them to kind of get, you know, additional tutoring or something like that. Maybe it's just the campaign to remind them that Tutor Me is there, or something special for them. Let's look at the numbers to guide us, is what my point is, before we put an action plan in place. But what we know is that because of the lack of drivers, tier 3 scholars are getting to school a little later than everything else. So thanks so much.
Thank you for that. That has already come up in conversations, and we've been looking at some of those numbers to try to analyze that.
Okay, I'm gonna take a second round.
Y'all are gonna fix it before then. Sorry, I said they're gonna fix it before then, so it'll be just a little learning we'll have to do.
All right. I'm gonna take a second round. So what it seems like to me, just from my understanding, I don't know if we can pull back up the slide that talks about the amount of people that are actually getting the geo alerts. So stop me if I'm wrong here. So tell me if I'm wrong in terms of the user experience. So in order for you to get a geo alert, there are like several steps that would have to be true in order for that to happen. Number one, you would have to have gotten an invite to StopFinder. In order to get on StopFinder, you would have had to be registered on ParentView. And in order to be registered on ParentView, you would have had to register correctly by having the same identifying, validating information that was in SchoolMax. Am I tracking that right in terms of the steps you would have had to take in order to get those geo alerts?
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah. So I guess my question is just, you know, as you're implementing this, do you feel like these are a lot of barriers to entry for families in order to get this type of access, just looking at the sort of drop-off rate from the amount of people that we have on ParentView? You know, I don't know the overlap of how many of those folks are bus riders, but just even how many people have downloaded the app, and then how many people are getting the geo alerts. That was a interesting differential there for me to see. And so there's that. The fact that there are kind of like 2 systems that you could potentially get alerts from, I think that may be confusing for parents. And I know that
in my experience, some schools are just using Class Dojo. So my first question is, are all schools using School Messenger, or is that a school by school decision? And that may be something that, Dr. Zuckerman may be able to answer too, but I don't know. Like, have we looked at across the board, is everybody using School Messenger? Because I didn't even know that that was an option. I've experienced people using Class Dojo and saying this bus is here, this bus is not. That was what I saw. And then the last question I have was, are we going to, at some point in our implementation trajectory, take a look at the impact of specialty program transportation on the system? And I don't know if that is, I don't remember that specifically being part of the recommendation, but I'm just asking, is that something that we will be discussing?
So if I could just start with the first part before I defer it to the team. This is part of a great example of when we've talked about progress over perfection and that we're really working to make progress. The number of families who have activated a Stop Finder account is actually up significantly over last year. And so while that number, there's still, I think it was a little bit less than 25% of the families that have received an invitation have actually activated their Stop Finder account. That is thousands upon thousands more families who have activated up to this point. And so I don't want to lose the fact that it is a new process for them to understand. We are trying to communicate out the multiple steps that can be challenging for families to navigate, but we are seeing progress with respect to families accessing, utilizing the tools that are available. And so I just want to make certain that we emphasize the fact that that is happening, despite the numbers that you're seeing.
No, for sure.
And Director Baldwin, can you speak to the school messenger?
For sure. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Perhaps a flow chart might help parents
Mhm.
to see that the connectivity of these systems, you have to be connected in several ways to get the alerts that they are looking for.
As far as the school messenger, we know in just conversation with our school administrators who's using school messenger and who's not. At any rate, the information is being shared with our schools. So they can push it out through School Dojo, which some are using. They are included in our school messengers. So the administration team, the principal gets the same message that we send to any trip associated to that school. So if, again, just to help, if they're not using School Messenger, they can take that email and put it in the Class Dojo to receive all the alerts as well, or information related to our buses.
Okay, so it's a school by school decision that the administrators are making. Okay, that's interesting. So that might be something to look into, because maybe some schools maybe just need to take a survey, are most of our families on Class Dojo, then maybe we need to take the school messenger alerts and put them there, because it seems like maybe there are some schools that are having more success, and we're hearing from parents that are at schools, maybe they're not connected to School Messenger, and that's where that school is choosing to utilize. So that's an interesting thing to know. I'm sorry, Dr. Coleman, were you going to mention something
Yeah, I
as
was
well?
just going to clarify just a little bit. So, but that every family at every school still has access to School Messenger and receiving those messages. And so when Director Baldwin talked about the 12 bus lots that we have in place and that we have staff dedicated to each lot to complete the substitutions and then send out the school messengers, that is for all schools. And so everyone's set up to receive it as long as they follow the steps to receive the school messenger emails.
Okay.
It's just that schools can use it also as a supplemental tool to send out separate messages that may be specific to their own building.
Right. And just for added information, our comms team did a great job of putting together an administrative toolkit, which also includes some prepared videos related to Stop Finder, which still addresses those 3 components about must have a parent view account, receiving the invitation to download the Stop Finder app and creating your G-alerts are all included in those as well. So we just want to keep pushing that information out because we know it's going to take time for our families. It's great. I still get emails. You know, we're all getting the emails from parents, but the one thing that I'm seeing more and more of is, hey, I used the app and they're asking me something about the app related to the bus. We didn't get that last year. Or the fact that, hey, I got the message 3 times this week that my bus was going to be late. When are you going to get me a driver? You got a message. We didn't do that last year. And so we're making the progress. It's just going to take a little time. Dr. Coleman has mentioned this many times that, look, we are in the 8th largest school district in the country for transporting students. So nothing is going to happen overnight.
Right.
We're going to weather the storm and we're going to improve this process so that we do better for our families.
Yeah,
It's not an easy job. It's
No.
a lot to change in a short amount of time, for sure.
It is. And the last piece, I know you asked about specialty programs. And certainly I'll defer to Director Baldwin in just a moment, but we are always looking at you know, the feasibility of how we can provide on-time transportation for our specialty programs because they have such a broad catchment area in some cases that are beyond the comprehensive boundary. And so it's a part of our regular analysis of ride times versus distance they have to cover versus how heavily we can utilize that particular bus, on-time arrival. So all of those variables are looked at, considered, and balanced. And one of those other impacts that we have to look at with specialties is that oftentimes, because the specialty runs are longer, they are unable to then service multiple tiers. And so whereas we want as many of our drivers as possible to service the first, second, and third tier. So I just want to assure you and the public that it's something that we are looking at consistently as to how we can meet the needs of our specialty programs and while at the same time servicing our other buildings.
Thank you so much. If there are no further questions, I'm going to move now to item 3.3. I'm going to recognize Dr. Coleman for the capital improvement plan update.
Well, thank you so much, Board Committee Chair Adam Stafford. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Director Jackson to provide the update regarding our CIP.
Good evening. Again, congratulations, Board Member Stafford Adams, or Adam Stafford. I apologize for being in the car. I'm waiting for a preschool back to school night, but I'm happy to be able to talk to you guys today. I don't have a formal update. As you know, we are looking forward to approval next week on the major projects that are really just continuation requests from our last CIP. You know, past years, we did a lot of budget formulation in our CIPs, and we're just past that at this place in the modernization program. For example, you know, when Suitland High School is $400 million, and our budget last year was $120 million, the majority of the CIP with these large projects is just continuing our multi-year projects. So just like last year, you saw our FY25 request, and we outlined what we would be requesting for the next 6 years. So for example, for Suitland, if we ask for $50 million for the next 5 years, this is just us asking for what we already outlined and was approved to us this year. So what we provided for you to see is how we may have deviated from that. So for example, maybe Suitland is only requesting $48 million based on our draw schedule from our construction contractor. So we were trying to give you a way to see at a glance where we differed from what was already approved for FY26, since again, this is more of a continuation CIP, given how far we are in our modernization program and how heavy a lift the high schools are. And that's not just Suitland, it's Cool Springs, Adelphi Elementary School, it's New Northern High School, and it's even High Point High School. So as we're just marching through the next few CIPs, they represent 90 to 95% of what the CIP does. So, you know, with that said, we don't have the amount of updates and variability and budget line items that we had before, because the budget doesn't really change, or at least it's not formulated again. So one of the other pieces you have is the total project cost as we presented it last year. So you could see at a glance what it is this year. So you could see a variance where anything might have increased or decreased, but nothing, nothing decreased. But that's really where we are. The next step after board approval would be to submit it to the county and the state. Both those processes are now fully electronic, not like send us a PDF electronic, but like input this into our systems, which is one reason why that traditional book has really gone away. And so we are in a transition year. So we're trying to kind of come up with what we're going to do next year in a way that is more, I think, digestible by our stakeholders, whether parents or politicians. Nobody really ever came back looking at that 300-page PDF and said, hey, this was great. Like, I really understood what was going on here. So we're really looking forward to capitalizing on this opportunity and coming up with a process that is more transparent to everyone involved in the facility process, which probably will represent some combination with the master plan, so that we can go out to the community, we can go out to our stakeholders, and we can say, hey, these are the facility plans, this is what we're requesting, and then we can have a full conversation around the priorities and around the request, instead of showing up during the CIP season and there's an assumption that you can then come and talk about priorities, right? You can then say, hey, what about this high school? And we say, oh no, we talked about that a few months ago in the master plan process. So my update is really, yes, this is still our continuation year. I appreciate some of the input we got from board member Miller and Boozer Struthers about what would be helpful to see. And we're just looking forward to kind of fleshing that out as we get through this transition period into a format that I think everybody will be happy with, and then also able to share more freely with their constituents.
Okay, colleagues, did you all have any questions or comments that you'd like to make at this time? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead, board member Bruce
thank
Struthers.
you. Yeah, I just want to thank the team for your responsiveness to our feedback on the data and our questions, and providing detailed reports upon request so we could really understand everything that's happening. So just to thank you this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. One of the things I feel like we discussed at our last OBAFA meeting, in talking about a project that had an 18-month delay, and we were talking about some of the permitting challenges, and I was asking about how can the board support in fast tracking basically some of these permitting challenges that you're facing in some of the capital projects. I just wanted to circle back to that to see, I know that fast tracking is happening in other places, but maybe not on some of our capital projects. So, what can be done on our behalf as advocates to support in that way?
Thank you. Like, I really love that sentiment, and we've seen that actually really works. So that project was Suitland High School. That particular delay has been dealt with. But I think going forward, when we encounter a delay, like I think we feel encouraged now to reach out to everyone involved, like before it gets to 18 months. So we'll certainly do that. We don't have anything, we've got William Schmidt out now. Cool Springs and New Northern aren't ready for permit yet, but those are kind of the next ones to keep an eye on. But we will definitely be able to communicate more freely about that. And I don't want us to ever get that far down the road, because that, of course, really had some real costs, not just the delay to schedule, but there's a lot of cost associated with an 18-month delay. So
Absolutely. And I'd actually even like to see if we can do something preemptively as a board to send a message out to, other stakeholders who we know can support in moving this along by saying that, the it is in everyone's best interest for us to not have permitting delays on these, 6 projects that are happening. Here's the timeline, right? And I feel like coming from the Board of Education and saying like what the cost will be, if it's possible, if you could give us maybe like an abstract number, like if these projects are delayed by 1 month, it's going to cost this much. If they're delayed by 6 months, it will cost this much. But that type of information can allow us to then advocate and say to county entities, we need these projects to be fast tracked as well in terms of permitting. And that's an area where we can be advocates. Is that something that maybe we could put together or?
Absolutely. So it was one of our goals. We didn't quite make that one in the presentation that we presented last time, but we are working on slides that do exactly that. So at least we could give you historically in these projects, this is how much the permitting has slipped and this is what that cost has been. And then I can't wait to share that with the team because, you're speaking the love language of the capital programs team. So yeah, we would be happy to get that to you.
Okay, great. And then I would just ask, my colleagues, when we do get that information, that we do, write a letter or request a meeting to support in, basically fast tracking permitting on capital improvement projects because they can pose significant financial implications for the school system. So hoping that my colleagues would support with that. Okay, were there any other questions or comments here? Or if not, we'll move on. Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to move on now to item 3.4, which is the phase 3 update. I'm going to recognize Dr. Coleman for the phase 3 update at this time.
Thank you so much, Committee Chair Adam Stafford. At this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Director Matlock for the Office of Alternative Infrastructure Planning and Development.
Good evening, committee members. Congratulations, Chairman Adam Stafford. I know it's wonderful to have children. So one of the things that, to give you a breakdown, as you know, we've divided the construction of the phase 2 P3 schools into 3 sections. That'd be the delivery of the first 2 schools, which we call the A group, the second being the B group, and the third being the C group. The A group consists of primarily Margaret Brent and Templeton. However, because we needed to get started earlier on Frost so we could deliver it on time because of the size and nature of the project, we've had groundbreakings on those 3 projects. Those all have occurred earlier in this month. We have another groundbreaking on another Group B school. That's going to be Fairwood, and that's going to happen on October the 4th. Meantime, we are scheduling PPC meetings and community meetings. This is primarily being handled by our partner, which is the Progressive Education Partnership. And what we have right now is a current schedule. We're planning to have our virtually our PPC meetings to start happening in September. So the first ones will be Margaret Brent and Templeton, which will be on the 26th for Margaret Brent and the 25th for Templeton, and Robert Frost will be on September 27th. There will be a PPC for Fairwood on October 10th. There will be a larger set of community meetings. Fairwood's going to get a listening session. It's not actually a community meeting because we don't have a schedule yet for that project, but there will be a listening session for the community, which will be live on October the 2nd. And then there will be community meetings for all of the schools, other schools moving forward. October 9th, there'll be one for Margaret Brent at 6 p.m. and another one for Robert Frost at 7:30 p.m. on the 9th. And then on October 10th, there will be a community meeting for Templeton at 6 o'clock on the 10th of October. In addition, we are already starting work on the sites. MCN will be accessing the sites at Templeton and Fairwood now. I'm sorry, Frost now. And they're starting work tomorrow. So that work will be started. We have the raise permits in hand, and we have some of the site permits, a portion of the site permits. We're working for fine grading permits on Templeton, Margaret Brent, and on Frost. And right now we're working, one of our only obstacles right now that we have for the permitting is just an easement that we need to get for bus access onto the Margaret Brent property through the library parking lot. But we are working through that with the county and DPI. We've sent them over a memorandum that they requested that lays out the cost and expense of each option. And we expect to get some response back from that by the end of next week. So that's where we're going right now.
Thank you so much for the update. And in terms of all of the PPC, what does that stand for? The
PPCs are the project planning committees, which each school gets. It's a policy that's been established by the school board several years ago, and it's been augmented recently. And what it entails is community groups. Usually it's a small group of around 18 people. It's community groups, the principal, some staff members, some parents, sometimes some elected officials. They get together and they get presentations from us, and we talk through some planning issues related to the project and try to incorporate like an understanding of how the school operates, some of the programming wrinkles that you might not see. One school's a little different than another school. And certain accesses, certain uses of the site that we might not have known about before, like they might have classes go down to a little stream behind for ecology, and making sure that there are pathways and things like that for them. Ideas about interior design of the building, colors, schemes, things like that, branding of the site, and the way in which the students move around the building, understanding that better so that we can improve the design and make little changes where necessary.
And thank you so much. And where all of these meetings are posted, where can the community find the listing of all of these meetings that will be happening?
So we just set the schedule up for these meetings, and they're being organized by our partner. So they will be posted on their website for the projects, and hopefully we'll have them posted on our website as well. And then, but invitations will be sent out to the community at large, and especially the school community and usually the community associations. And groups that we've already met with. So this is a continuing, we've already met with every community so far, and the schools that are going to be into construction, we'll be meeting with them on a quarterly basis, primarily to tell them what's going on, updating them on schedule, identifying if there's anything happening on that schedule that may impact them, and letting them also see if there have been changes in design or siting or things like that.
Okay. Could you also send that to board members as well? Because we send out frequent communication, so I know that that's something that all board members would like to have as well. Colleagues, were there any questions on this section? Okay, and this was a really specific question. I know we had talked about having school-based health clinics included in future builds in specific school sites. And I just wanted to just clarify if we would be having in this tranche of the P3 any specific schools that would be having school-based health clinics, or just kind of where we stood on that.
Well, of the 6 school-based health clinics that we built in the last set of schools, none of them have been staffed by either the county or anyone else at this point. So, and we were tight on space, so we have not incorporated them into these elementary schools. Primarily because we were, as you know, at one point we were facing some fiscal challenges related to the project. So since they weren't a core element of the design, we did not include them. There is space within the buildings for community use, but there's not specifically health-based, school-based health centers in these buildings.
Well, that's something that we can definitely follow up as board members on to discuss this, because I believe there was like an RFP that went out to staff those. So whatever happened to that?
That's beyond me. Not my bailiwick, but I can say that right now all the principals are looking at me and wanting to use that for other stuff now. They're like,
Wow.
they're looking
I
at
mean,
that
that
space
the
as free.
communities need those health clinics. I'm not to cut you off, I'm so sorry, but
No. It's just, they're looking at 3,000 square feet. They have other programming they'd like to bring into the building. And, 3,000 square feet, that's a lot of
that's a
unused.
lot of space.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to board member Boozer Struthers. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that question on the health clinics as well. And just for your information, Chair Adam Stafford, that has been something that I have had a dialogue with administration about the RFP, that it didn't produce responses, so it had to be reissued. And it's definitely at the top of my list as well. So I would appreciate the opportunity to work with you on what we need to do as board members to help solve the problem, because I have made that offer to administration as well. If there's something that more we can be doing around companies, healthcare companies or nonprofits being interested in these 6 sites. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we'll just put that as a follow-up for sure, that we want to, and there may be others that may need to come to present to this committee just about the status and the action plan to get all of those 6 sites staffed, because that's something that the board is very interested in, because we actually did a budget amendment 2 years ago specifically for those. Hi. Okay. If there are no other questions, we're going to move forward. Okay, at this time, we're going to recognize Ms. Howell for the discussion on board policy 3323 purchasing.
Good evening, everyone, and congratulations again, Committee Chair Adam Stafford, for the addition to your family. So I guess I'll just open it up at this time. We were provided with just a general framework that there were some questions around board policy 3323, and I wasn't sure if this was just an opportunity to identify what those would be and what might be passed back on to the Governance and Policy Committee. So I'll just open it up for the questions that may be posed relating to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think the general question is just around the purchasing amount or limit under this policy, and perhaps if you could elaborate just a little bit more on that amount. And this is the amount that the administration is able to make without a board vote. And so that's something that I'd like to discuss, because ultimately I'd like to think about or understand how that does impact our budget, operating budget.
Sure. And so right now, board policy 3323 governs the administrative procedure 3323, which deals with the approval thresholds. So if the procurement item, generally speaking, is less than $50,000, then the purchasing director has the authority to approve that contract and move forward. If it's 50,000 or greater, then those items will be required to go through an RFP or an IFB process. And then depending on the outcome of that procurement process, it would need to then be approved by the board. Now that is for general small procurement items. There are exceptions, as always, and this is actually governed by the state finance and procurement article, which kind of is the framework for our policy as well, although the thresholds are a little bit higher for the state's article. But the exceptions really relates to instructional materials, instructional professional development, professional services. Those thresholds are different. So it just kind of depends on the different category that you're looking at. But for general small procurements, that threshold is 50,000 or less.
Okay, yes, I have looked at this policy and particularly around the, instructional contracted services and the professional services. And I'm just wondering, where do we stack up in terms of districts of other comparable sizes in terms of these amounts? Because to me, just looking at them, they seem very high. I'd like to just know more about how frequently we leverage or go right up to that threshold. I mean, for example, for professional services, it can go up to $250,000. And I just wanted to get a better understanding of, again, how often do we approach that threshold? Like on average, when we're contracting out these services without board approval, where do we stand? Or just generally, like how much of our budget are these services making up? Because that's something that we're not necessarily approving as a board. Those are the questions that I have around the policy. Colleagues, do you all have any questions around this policy? Okay, well, if there are no further questions, then we'll just look for some additional information or discussion on these, and perhaps this might float over to the Policy and Governance Committee as well to discuss. Also, I wanted to mention that we're going to have the community priorities survey, so we're still working on that so that we can put that together for our community to send out. So Chief Howell will be sending that over to you once Director Fitzpatrick approves it on our end.
Okay, and that's expected to be distributed to the community this month, and then they're gonna have a certain number of weeks, I guess, to complete it and have that submission back by. Okay, and you'll be working with the communications team to have that included as well as a way to reach out to our communities?
I would like to. I believe last year we did have a plan for sending that out with a QR code and getting it out on the social media platforms that the school system has. So certainly I would love to do that again. We had about 500 responses last year, so hoping to meet that number and a bit more. So.
Yep, that sounds great.
Okay, so sorry.
All right, so follow-ups from the meetings will be posted on board docs upon receipt. The next virtual OBOFA meeting will be on October 23rd, 2024. Please continue to check the Prince George's County Board of Education website, our page that we have for more information and updates. We've come to the end of our first meeting. Thank you all for a great discussion. The time is now 6:27. The September 18th, 2024 Operation Budget and Fiscal Affairs Committee is adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you and good night.